Let me put it this way, Mr. Raymer. The 9000 series is the most reliable computer ever made.
We should advise you, however, that our preliminary findings indicate that your onboard 90000 computer is in error predicting the fault.
No 9000 computer has ever made a mistake or distorted information.
How would you account for this discrepancy between you and the Twin 9000?
It can only be attributable to human error. I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me, although you took very thorough precautions in the pod against my hearing you. I could see your lips move.
I sensed a certain pride in his answer about his accuracy and perfection. Do you believe that Hal has genuine emotions?
My mind is going. I can feel it. I'm afraid, Dave.
But as to whether or not he has real feelings is something I don't think anyone can truthfully answer.
Coming to you from somewhere deep inside Transition Studios, brought to you by your hosts, Roger and Lito. Welcome to Sci-Fi Rewind!
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Hello, everyone. I'm Roger,
And I'm Lito.
and together we are
Sci-Fi Rewind.
And today we are joined by our guest. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Kevin Scheid.
All right,
All right.
Kevin. Now, hey, what do you do?
Oh, well, thank you for asking, Lito. So I actually am the sales coordinator with Gravitas Ventures. We are a independent film distributor, the biggest independent film distributor across the globe. Just going to throw that in there. But yeah, we are located actually here in Cleveland. So we happen to be a global distribution company for films, independent films, but located right here in Cleveland, Ohio. We actually started way back in about 2006. The company was founded in LA, and then our founders are both Cleveland guys. So they moved the company back to Cleveland around 2015, 2016 or so, in that area. And I've been with the company since 2020, June 2020. Essentially, my job in a nutshell is to find the films that we acquire homes on streaming, whether it's through advertising, video on demand outlets like Pluto or Tubi, IMDb TV, or your bigger subscription video on demand platforms like Hulu and Netflix, the familiar ones. Essentially, my job is to make sure that these films have the proper homes, because we have a very eclectic catalog. We pride ourselves on whether it's documentaries, horror, genre, cast-driven titles, which we'll talk about later too. But so yeah, that's a little bit about what I do in a nutshell.
Yeah, that sounds like a really cool place to land. I know you from film school. We went to Cleveland State together, and I knew you. You're acting, and then you're directing.
Yeah.
No, the acting was awesome. By the way, you made me
It was
crack up.
fun. Yeah, it was fun. That's for sure.
If you don't mind me, I can go back. It was you were like a coked up guy trying to get your fix.
Yeah, well,
But the pizza place was all like.
Yeah, I don't know why I was cast for that, but it was that was one of very kind of hysterical characters I played. I felt like I was typecast in film school as playing these really offbeat, unstable human beings. So yeah, I'm glad that I was the natural fit for that. But no, it was a lot of fun. I mean, we were reminiscing earlier about some of the projects we worked on, the people that we know, and neatly enough, you're one of several people here at Transition Studios who are CSU alums. So
absolutely, yeah, it's like a pipeline.
Yeah, exactly. And Gravitas actually, I want to say too, it does include a lot of CSU alum. I'm one of about, I want to say half a dozen graduates.
Wow.
Yeah, from CSU. A lot of which who did have film school backgrounds or at least studied film while at CSU. So, yeah, it's nice to see us remaining local and still being able to work in the industry.
That's the dream come true for me, honest. I mean, I had never had any dreams of going to LA. I wanted to stay right here and just do film, and it's a dream come true for me, and I'm sure
Yeah, I mean, when you walk around Cleveland in January, it doesn't feel like a dream come true.
No,
But
I don't.
but no, in all sincerity, yeah, this is a dream come true. And no, I couldn't be in a more fortunate situation professionally. And then, yeah, I mean, I owe a lot of that to CSU, certainly.
Absolutely, same here. But you've also are a director and a writer. I got the pleasure of working on your film, In the Weeds.
Yeah.
And
good memory. Yeah.
it was awesome experience. I learned a lot actually just from being on your set.
Not for me, but yeah.
No, from you. It was
Okay,
great.
yeah.
You had real actors. You had real locations. You had real like you dressed your wait staff and you invested in your film.
Sure. Yeah.
And you made it all look right, and you got
Yeah, and I will say in retrospect, it was one of the more rewarding things. And look, it's a 17-minute movie that I think, if you go to YouTube right now, you might be able to see there's about 150 views, maybe 200. Maybe I'm not giving myself enough credit. I don't know. We might be over 200 now, but so it didn't set the world on fire in the big grand scheme of things. But the real, I guess.
I believe the accomplishment, if you don't mind me stepping in, is you had a vision, you started it, you wrote it, you directed it, and you finished it, and you put it out. Yeah. You know what I mean? You have something to show for all that effort.
I think that the process itself was kind of the source of fulfillment. I mean, it was, and I think I knew that at the time too, that how difficult it is to actually make a film, have a crew, have a cast, and that was the first time that I think any time in my life I was in charge of 20 people. So it was nerve-wracking. The first day I compared it to like driving a tank.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like this was the most cumbersome task I could have possibly assumed, and it was happening in real time. But I remember I had like this just terror, night sweats going home, or rather the night of the second filming day. So before we did the second day of shooting, I was just a wreck because I was like, holy crap, I didn't realize the magnitude of what I got myself into in directing, everything that goes into it. It overwhelmed me. But then I remember being on set for the second day, and by the end of that night, which didn't end until like 4 a.m, but
right, it was late.
Feeling, like I found a groove in a way, and just to see everybody collaborate on something that just started from a goofy idea I had in my head, and then worked on. So yeah, it was wonderful. And then I would say the height of the experience was probably being able to watch at the Cinematheque, with the audience we had, and so
you won the award for the best picture of the school that year.
Yeah,
which is pretty awesome.
I have the certificate somewhere. I don't know, but no, it was really neat, and
I really thought it was a classy move. You brought everybody on stage who worked on it and say, hey, I couldn't have done it with these guys.
Well, I'm a classy guy, Lito.
Dude, I was like,
that's the way I operate. No, it was a lot of fun, and if it would be really disingenuous, I feel like, for anybody. I think film was probably, I don't know if you guys agree or not, but at least in my experience, the most collaborative art form in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. Takes a team, takes a village.
Really, yeah. And even for a little short film, I mean, it was 20 people, and we all had to pull our own weight and had to work together. And
you had a great crew.
Yeah,
everyone on there is.
Yeah.
So
the idea that I would be, responsible for that much more than anybody else, if at all, it seemed kind of disingenuous. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I really urge anybody who's thinking about going to film school, if they really think that it's something they want to explore, and they have even just a modest amount of interest in doing so, to really give it a shot, because there's so much you can learn from. And the other thing about film school is that you may go in thinking that you want to be involved in one capacity or one role, and then you'll learn that actually I think that this suits me better, or whether it's behind the camera, in front of the camera, there's just a myriad of positions you could have, and just the opportunity again to work with people who are talented, who are hardworking, and happen to be your friends on this type of project. It's a really rewarding experience. So yeah, that was definitely the highlight of the film school.
Same here. It was great. It was a great time, and thank you for having me on there, by the way. Oh, and having me act a little bit too. So you got me to actually.
Did you just shove? I think I had you shove a guy.
Yeah. It was like you just I walked past him.
Shouldered him. Yeah.
Right, and the guy was like, "Hit me harder, hit me harder." I'm like, "Are you sure?"
I mean, it was intense there. Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun. But why are we here today? What are we going to be talking about, Kevin?
Well, I was told we were going to be talking about 2001: A Space Odyssey. That's why I decided to show up. So.
Okay.
Well, you're wrong. We actually tricked you in here to see Battlefield Earth.
Battlefield Earth. Okay. The Scientology John Travolta.
Absolutely.
Classic? Okay.
We did not get enough of it last week or the week before.
So we're gonna pause right here.
Yeah.
And we're
Did you
gonna
do a whole episode about Battlefield Earth?
Yes, we
We
did.
did.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's, yeah, no, that's, I salute you guys.
And we need to like actually keep going on that. So
Yeah.
if we could pause Kevin for a while and just keep going Battlefield Earth. I'm just kidding.
No, I need to watch Battlefield Earth first. I don't think I've even seen the movie. How is it like 4 hours?
No, it's actually mercifully short in
Okay.
in some ways, but
Not short enough, I guess. Yeah.
not short enough. I mean, it is still 2 hours, but like compared to 2001: A Space Odyssey, it's a bit better.
At least
Well,
there's
that's
no
where the comparison should probably stop.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's no intermission in Battlefield Earth, but that tells you. I was like, oh, I'm in a long movie.
This
If
is-
there's
well,
no
they
intermission.
re- going on.
They realized
Yeah.
if they put in an intermission, people would just leave the theater.
I mean, correct if I'm wrong. I
Battlefield.
don't have a great memory of
Yeah, yeah.
Battlefield Earth.
That's fine.
I would think most don't, but
Yeah, don't. Yeah, I
This is
wouldn't.
about like I want to say late '90s, early 2000s.
It was-
Travolta
it was
with some, like-
2000.
Yeah,
Correct.
he's weird costume or
Oh yeah, dreadlocks.
dreadlocks. That's right.
He's-
Okay,
He's on stilts. Like all the aliens are on stilts.
it's all
and
there. Okay.
It's an amazing
Train wreck.
Yeah,
And it's
spectacle of-
rooted in Scientology. Like, it's an L. Ron Hubbard novel.
L. Ron
It's,
Hubbard.
Okay.
it's an L. Ron Hubbard novel,
Yeah.
but apparently they took a lot of Scientology stuff out of it.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, we're not here to talk about that. We're done with that. If you
Yeah.
want to listen about that, go to episode 2. It's a can't miss episode. Definitely check that out. But we're here to talk about
2001: A Space Odyssey.
all right, a real science fiction movie, in my opinion.
The science fiction movie, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, I went there. Yeah.
There you go. There it is. It's been said. Let's delve into that. Nice.
Yeah. So for me, I guess, my first exposure was at high school.
Okay. But before we get into that,
Yes.
let's have you come into our office
Okay.
and introduce yourself, and then why don't you go ahead and tell us how you would sell this movie? Pitch us this movie. Like, we're the executives.
Okay, yeah.
I'm executive number 1. That's executive number 2. You're the filmmaker. Don't have to be Stanley Kubrick. Just whoever you are. Sell us the film. We got the money.
Okay. Yeah. No.
You got the idea. How can we help you?
Yeah. I can offer you some monkeys to start off. I
Monkeys.
can throw in a spaceship. I can throw in a baby, an alien baby. I can throw in a psychedelic journey through space.
That's good. Psychedelic stuff's kind of in right now.
Okay, but what's the story about?
Sure. So that's an interesting question you proposed, Roger. Let me just kind of say so. There's a black monolith, okay, and it's kind of shaped like a domino. And we first see it in this film. It's kind of in a prehistorical time. So this is when human ancestors are discovering how to use tools. And it turns out that they have an epiphany there, that one of the bones, we use as a weapon. Okay. So we cut, and we'll get to that later, that match cut that almost defines cinema in some ways, how we then see ourselves in space. We're on a spaceship. We are firmly in a different dimension, different time, different era. But the monolith appears 4 different times. And each time, it's a seismic shift in humanity. It's a source of evolution in some ways. So essentially the story is where we've been, where we are, and maybe where we're heading as a species.
It's a thinker. It's a think piece.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And
You're not going to spoon feed us this information. We're going to have to check. We're going to have to figure some stuff out.
Yeah, multiple viewings to say the least. I don't.
I like multiple viewings. That's multiple trips to the theater. I like that.
Yeah, or just whether it's on your home screen or dare I say like an iPad even. But no, I think that this is the ultimate movie where I'm not sure any human being who ever saw it the first time was able to connect the dots.
Right.
I'm not sure if you're able at any point in your life you're able to connect everything, or if you're even supposed to. And maybe the beauty of it is that there's a different interpretation that all of us can have, and each of them are valid in their own way. So that's the beauty of it in some ways. But so no, it's a film that I think inspired more people to either be involved in film or space than maybe any other picture that I can think of. I would honestly compare it to, like the first time you learn how to ride a bicycle, or first time maybe you drove a car or got drunk or did some other fun things. I mean, it's like it's a a really life-altering moment, and I don't say that lightly. So,
Is this movie an original idea, or is it based off of something?
so the interesting thing about 2001 is that it's known that there's a book by Arthur C. Clarke titled 2001: A Space Odyssey. But what's really rare is that it's not actually based on the book. The book and the film were made simultaneously, which, to my knowledge, I can't think of too many other examples like that. So this really did emanate from Stanley Kubrick. It was his idea, and Arthur C. Clarke, they collaborated on it. But Arthur C. Clarke also has his own book, which there are some differences between the film and the book. But only Stanley Kubrick could have conceived.
So who's writing the screenplay then?
It was Arthur C. Clarke who wrote the screenplay.
Okay.
And then, of course, Stanley Kubrick directed.
So you got Stanley Kubrick attached to direct the film?
I mean, yes. I mean, there's literally no other human being who could have even conceived of it, let alone pulled it off. I mean, it was...
I like him. He's good.
I would hope so. Or
Spartacus was fun.
I'm going to find the nearest exit if you would have said otherwise.
But, Passive Glory was life changer for me. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that movie spoke a lot about leadership and having to do the just like the pawns of using people as pawns, and just
All
just
too
for
relevant.
for their own goals is kind of like and I guess you gotta have order in military, but I mean, these are human beings, these are human lives that you're playing around with. So I don't know, I thought that was very eye-opening.
Well said. Yeah. No, I would say dehumanization
Yeah.
of man is kind of one of the central themes of Kubrick, and you see that on display in Passive Glory, and of course the ending is
absolutely
the heartbreaker. His wife, by the way, that's her singing. I don't know if a lot of people know that.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, that was he later married her, Christiane Kubrick, his widow now, of course. But that's her singing at the end.
Well, speaking about music, do you have any music in mind for this film?
Well, I mean, there's the iconic sound of Strauss's booming. So when we first see the film, and again, of course, the thing about 2001 is that there's not a lot of dialogue at all, right? In fact, there's no dialogue. I want to say.
So we're making a silent film.
Well, not quite silent.
Let's pretend like Roger and I are actually the ones making the film, or bringing the money. So you're saying we're making a silent film, or
no, not a silent film. Just very little dialogue. This is not an Aaron Sorkin film, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
There's not a lot of witty banter going on, or it's not dialogue. It's quite the opposite.
Okay.
It's the ultimate visual experience, but also audio. I mean, it's you hear Strauss's also Sprach Zarathustra, I believe is how you pronounce it. But it's the classical, bombastic, but almost triumphant sound you hear is the theme of 2001. And then, of course, the Blue Danube, which is like the waltz you hear when we're in space, and we see spaceship orbiting, and I would say iconic music from 2001. And when you hear that theme, and it's often used in in kind of a light parody, a lot of times whether it's commercial, maybe in some films too.
Spaceballs.
Yeah, was it Spaceballs?
They kind of make fun. A little bit. Doom,
right,
doom,
exactly.
Megabade.
And everyone knows that. Yeah. That those notes. And then it conjures up images of space, or a monkey smashing another one with a bone.
There it is.
Also, Spaceballs, the almost tied to 2001 with shots that just go on forever.
Yeah, there's a lot of just watching something, observing something happening on screen in a very slow rate, it seems like, in this movie. But okay.
While we're still on the topic of the pitch, how much money do you think you need?
Yeah, how much is it going to cost us?
See, that's an interesting thing. So back then, we
can do inflation calculator.
So the budget back then was actually $10.5 million.
So we're talking $84 million.
Okay.
In today's dollars.
Yeah, and it almost doubled that in terms of box office, made about $146 million. So
that's good.
Your ROI was pretty high, but no, I mean it's funny because you
return on investment.
Yes.
Right.
This is also an economics podcast, business podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're here to teach as well as entertain.
I think so. But so with I think you look at the film now, and even back then too, it was so unique visually. The idea that this was made in the late 60s almost doesn't make sense because it's so ahead of its time in so many different ways, but it still holds up. And I think science fiction, probably more than any other genre, and you guys can feel free to disagree, but there's an outdated quality to a lot of science fiction movies that back then may have seemed very groundbreaking or edgy, high tech, and then you look at it now and just it doesn't really hold a candle to what we can see today on the screen. But
would that have to do because of the director's attention to detail?
I think that's part of it. Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I think what the vision was for some directors, and I think that it depends on what you want to make, and if what you wanted to make back then seemed to be something that was on the precipice of something cool and fun and interesting, but you didn't quite have the technological resources or visual aids to pull it off, and look back now and not quite see the quality of it. But no, I just think that somehow, some way, he was able to imagine the unimaginable, and he was able to envision what it would be like to travel through space, spaceships themselves. I mean, it doesn't seem like a film that was made with no clue of the progress we would make in terms of space exploration or the crews we have, whether it's the astronauts or back home, or so it's.
There's a reason why people to this day still think Stanley Kubrick faked the moon landing.
Well, he did. That's because I think about that though for a second. He was actually in a race in some ways. Maybe at least in his mind, he was in a race because when this comes out in 1968. Right. So this is during the space race. This is when there was a real effort by the U.S. government, other governments across the world to land a man on the moon.
Right,
to
be the first.
Yeah, the next frontier.
So you're saying this movie will inspire people to, I don't know, join the space movement, you think?
I mean, I'm not sure if it's like a recruiting ad for Space Force or anything like that, but I think what it does is it at least opens up your mind. And it really just, like muscles you don't use too often. And when you do yoga or some other exercise, it tends to open those up. And this to me is kind of the same, and it's a corny analogy, but it's kind of the same watching 2001 with your brain. I mean, when you watch it, it's just so mesmerizing. I mean, I'm not sure anyone, even in today's world where we're glued to our phones and our attention spans have never been smaller, I can't imagine someone sitting, and especially if they're in front of a big screen watching 2001: A Space Odyssey, like, I wonder what's on TikTok, or I'm going to text my buddy. I just feel like once you're actually invested in the film and you've immersed yourself into it, nothing else matters. I mean, it's one of those movies that has that rare ability to capture you like nothing else.
Right on. So talk about the actors. Like, who do you got acting in this? I'm intrigued. I'm already like sold.
We have a robot. We have Hal.
Hal.
Hal. So of course Hal.
What does Hal stand for?
Well, funny you should ask. So Hal was for those, and we're all assuming that everyone watches. Yes.
Yeah. Spoiler heavy.
Okay. Hal, of course, is the robot that's on the spaceship with them, and kind of in a Frankenstein-esque turn, ends up because, ironically, this robot possesses a lot of human qualities in terms of insecurity, fear. So it's like a first introduction to artificial intelligence, but the brilliant stroke of it is that it's not just a robot who takes orders or you program it. It has a mind of its own.
That's scary.
And what is scary about it, and probably the most frightening scene in cinema history, is when Hal opens the doors and kills the astronaut. And you see the astronaut in space, just floating hopelessly in space.
Trying to connect.
Yes, trying to connect, and then just gone. And it's just the most unsettling image.
Wow.
But the thing with Hal, which is, I was kind of introduced to this when I first dig into the film. So let's do this in real time with letters here. Let's have a little fun. So what letter comes after H? I.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, it's not an IQ test, but okay. I. Okay. What letter comes after A?
B.
And what letter comes after L?
M.
So what would we just spell out?
What did I?
No. IBM.
Oh, IBM, the company that sponsored some of the movie, right?
So they didn't sponsor it.
Okay.
Here's the thing. So Kubrick, he consulted with them, and supposedly he consulted with them on plans for Hal. He wanted to actually use the company's logo, okay? But that fell through once he described Hal as a quote-unquote a psychotic computer in his pitch to IBM to be able to use it.
Oh.
So naturally, they didn't want anything to do with that. If that was the case. So he then had a little fun. So he then unscrambled IBM, made HAL. So sure enough, HAL 3000 exists. So yeah, HAL, the artificial intelligence entity, is kind of the most memorable character, I'd say, from 2001. Because again, this isn't a really character-driven film per se. Now, the hero of the film, the protagonist, is Dave Bowman.
Okay, Dave.
And similar, so the name also has meaning too, because keep in mind, 2001: A Space Odyssey, okay, and it's very reminiscent of Homer's Odyssey. Right?
I was about to say, was there a connection? Okay, great.
There is, and Odysseus, the hero of Homer's Odyssey, he's evolved in archery, so he's a bow and arrow man. So Bowman, Dave Bowman.
Nice.
Probably not a coincidence there that the last name is Bowman.
That's a good connection. I like that. I like that connection to literature. That's
yeah.
good.
So Dave Bowman is kind of our hero of the film, and again, it's not a movie where you have the most recognizable cast, but it's Keir Dullea. That's probably his most memorable role, though. He's the one who plays Dave, and the line "Open the pub doors, Hal," is from him, of course. And I would say that those two, Hal and Dave, are probably your two biggest characters from the film.
All right, so we got a couple of actors, a computer in charge, computer artificial intelligence in charge.
I heard some things about monkeys, things like that.
We do have them,
Space baby. This sounds like a trip.
It's the ultimate trip.
Yeah. How does this all end? Like, how does it wrap up? Like, what do we got?
That's $1 million question.
Yeah,
how does it end? What does it all mean?
Yeah.
So the last shot, I guess you kind of have to go beat by beat here. Okay, so let's take it back a little bit. Okay, so what happens after Hal gets rid of one of the astronauts who he's afraid is going to unplug him is that Dave is the one who ends up unplugging Hal. So Dave essentially murders Hal, if you want to call it that. He unplugs him. Similar to how the astronaut's death is very jarring and troubling to watch, Hal's death is actually really tragic for an artificial intelligence, because again, that's a testament too of an absolutely brilliant director, that you feel almost heartbroken over artificial intelligence being unplugged, but it represents so much more. And the way he dies is that, if you guys remember, he starts singing a lullaby about daisies, or Daisy, my Daisy. What's kind of fascinating about that is that, and not to get too heavy here, but a lot of times with those who die in a more natural form, especially if old age or they're elderly and they pass on, oftentimes they'll revert back to childhood towards the end.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have a grandparent, but there's
life,
some,
full circle.
There's some kind of cyclical element to it, and there's that regression almost leads to that type of response. So I don't think it's a coincidence either that you see Hal, he's singing a lullaby, like that he was programmed to learn. So again, that makes it that much more impactful, I would think. So after that,
or relatable,
yeah, I get. Well, yeah, we're all too relatable, unfortunately, with AI these days, but or machines, technology. But so once that's done, Hal is then alerted that there's been some type of life force detected on Jupiter.
Okay.
And that's where the final monolith is, right? So he is then...
Are those wayfinders of some sort, these monoliths?
Well, again, it's funny. I've never been asked, what is the meaning of the monolith in 2001? But it's such a fascinating question, because I don't know if even Stanley Kubrick, I'm not sure he could tell you if there's a concrete meaning or representation for these monoliths. I think, again, it maybe means more where they are at than anything else, because every time we see him appear, there's a new form of evolution that succeeds it. So after that, after he's been notified that there's life forms, so then we see him travel to Jupiter. So you then see a graphic appear on the film that says Jupiter Beyond the Infinite. And we go on what's called the Stargate Sequence, which is considered like the most visually stunning 20 minutes or so of film, at least in that time. And I would still argue it's right up there with any other film, even in 2022. You see just this complete kaleidoscope of light, of flashing images at a high speed.
Okay.
It's very intense.
How long does that go on for, you think?
I would say the entire trip is probably about 15, 20 minutes. Is that scene? But the height of it is about 4 minutes or so when we're at a full speed.
Okay.
We're landing in Jupiter, so
It's very much an artsy film, in a way.
well, it's yeah. I mean, it's a film like nothing else. I mean, again, it's the most ambitious, I think, in terms of
Right.
scale, in terms of what you're trying to tackle. But the other thing is that it's not a very conventional film in terms of Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and you can follow all the beats, and then it's just, there's so much more to it, and that's all deliberate too. I think that and Kubrick talked about it, he was trying to make a very visual experience where it conjures up something subliminal, and sometimes you almost surprise yourself of what you're able to kind of penetrate from that. But
Okay, cool.
there is a real, I think a lot of people too, they just view it sometimes purely philosophical, but there's a really emotional element too.
Okay.
And I talked about Hal's death a little bit, but it's in some ways too at the end. So we'll talk about that, I guess, right now. So then we cut to Dave has now arrived in Jupiter. We then see him arrive still as the astronaut, but then he sees what appears to be an old, decaying version of himself in bed. He's hairless. He looks quite old, frail as well, and it appears to be him dying. So he sees himself dying, and he lifts a finger, which conjures up image of the birth of David.
Okay.
A little bit, and we then see him in bed, finger lifted, and then we cut to an image of a baby, some type of alien baby, which is known as Star Child, wrapped in a bubble of some sort. It's like a bubble. So again, we're talking about birth,
Like
death,
an embryo or something.
Perhaps, yeah. I mean, you can go there. And then the final shot of the film is this baby hovering over planet Earth. Okay, so it's this, and we hear the music, we hear the theme for 2001, and it sounds more triumphant than ever this time, especially because it is a rebirth, and I'm not sure if you guys have read Nietzsche before. Nietzsche's Übermensch theory of Superman and how there's going to be an even more evolved version of human beings at some point. And some people, or I think that some people have interpreted, or he may have even explicitly written that his idea was that this Supermensch or Übermensch Superman type incarnation of human being would actually be a baby of some sort. So that's kind of where I think the genesis of Star Child derives from. Keep in mind too, that book where the Übermensch theory derives from is called Thus Spoke Zarathustra. This is like 1883, I believe.
Oh, wow.
The name of the piece that we hear, the theme for 2001, is Strauss's Also Sprach Zarathustra. So again, there's a lot of dots, at least on the surface, to connect there. But yeah, it's hard not to get choked up or even get chills seeing that there is going to be something beyond us in some ways, and then you can talk about reincarnation, you can talk about rebirth. Also, the whole trip itself, the Stargate sequence, is kind of like being in a birth canal. I mean, I think some people have interpreted it that way too. So we're really, I mean, it at its core, the movie is a story about evolution, about growth, about decay, rebirth. So,
do you think any religious people are going to be upset about that? Because most people.
I don't think it's exclusionary religion. I mean,
we're going to have any kind of pushback from Adam and Eve evolutionists on the subject. People picketing.
Well, if they haven't
we didn't
yet,
come from monkeys.
I don't think. Yeah, I don't think it's starting now. I mean, to me, it's not a. Stanley Kubrick, especially, is not someone who wore his views on his sleeve. Unfortunately, I think today, especially, people are very on brand. With whether it's filmmakers sometimes or your favorite artist or whoever. They tend to wear their ideologies on their sleeves, and there's not a lot of subtlety. It feels like you're being hit over the head with some type of viewpoint. This movie is not that at all. In fact, it's the polar opposite. You make of it what you will. It's an experience where it's the ultimate show don't tell. Okay?
Gotcha. Yeah.
You were talking about film school earlier. That was one of the rules we learned is show don't tell.
Show don't tell. It's a big one.
Yeah, and this is the ultimate of that. I mean, there's, like I said, minimal dialogue.
Right.
It's so ambiguous, So I don't know how anybody could get necessarily upset with that. And if
Small
they,
cast, so that's good. you know.
yes, yeah, of course, yeah, not
Not one
ensemble piece.
location, but the cast is
No,
small.
no, it's yeah. They weren't on site either, but yeah.
Yeah. So, you got any more questions, Roger, or are you ready to greenlight this thing?
Greenlight. I thought we already greenlit this thing.
Yeah.
Like, this sounds neat.
Yeah, this sounds great to me.
Well, it's easy to pitch 2001. Yeah, I don't know if I can pitch Battlefield Earth, but I can. I mean, yeah,
I gave it my best shot.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go do some golf, huh?
Oh, right now?
Yeah.
A little cold, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go golfing
Okay.
Top
go.
golf course. Yeah.
and pat each other on the back. All right. End scene. Good job.
Oh, is that it?
That was the pitch. Yeah, we're
Oh,
done.
nice.
Yeah, so now we're going to move into our initial thoughts.
Okay, great.
Which we've got tons of yours.
Okay.
But if you anything else you want to add, we'll start with you, Kevin.
The match cut. Talk about the match cut.
Yes.
Okay. So the match cut in 2001 is maybe the most iconic image from the film, one of the most iconic images in cinema. So again, we're the beginning of the film, the first opening sequence. It's like the dawn of man,
Right.
and we see what appears to be primates, and they figure out that the bone can be used not as just as a basic tool, but as a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they can conquer civilization, through force. So we see, and we hear the music, the 2001 theme reappear. You see one of the apes beating another one, killing another one with this bone.
And that guy went down quick.
It went down quick. Yeah, it was a knockout for sure. And the mouth's agape. It's the most like primitive looking creature you think of, because again, it's just brute. It's through force. It's through violence. And then the bone goes in the air. So he tosses the bone in the air, immediately then cut to the spaceship. And that's not by accident, right?
Right.
So the spaceship is then the natural progression, because we've conquered Earth, it's conquered civilization on Earth through, and again, you can kind of read this as you will. Maybe it's through empire, war, violence, just, pure hegemony, maybe you want to call it that, whatever. So that's how the rules have been established here. And then the next frontier is space. But what's interesting is that you have such a dichotomy, because you go through, again, the pounding of the drums, and then that ape whose mouth's agape, he's screaming, it's very primal. And then we cut to this beautiful image of space, of the moon, a spaceship in orbit.
Okay.
And then we hear what's called the Blue Danube. It's a waltz, which is the highest sophistication of music, right? It's this very delicate piece.
Okay.
So what's interesting too is that this tool for conquering, it can look very, very raw, very, very primitive, but it can also look very beautiful, very elegant too, but serve the same purpose. So that that might be the historical genius right there, is that match cut, because not only did it change, I think, the way films can be made, but just how people can view the evolution of man and our conquering of space and beyond that.
That's great. So that how many thousands of years, maybe millions of years in that transition, right? That happens in that transition from
Thousands,
the bone
yeah.
to the space station.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot to skip over. But yeah, like let's this is where it started, but this is where we want to kind of hang out.
And I'm just gonna say this. You can continue, but just really, really good makeup effects with the 8 men.
Yeah.
Oh God, they were so good. Like just the way they acted and everything.
Right.
It's just like, oh God, this feels so real.
Exactly. No, and it's you feel like you're not watching some cheesy Saturday morning,
Guy in a
movie.
monkey suit.
Right. It's a complete opposite of that. It's harrowing. It's kind of almost frightening to watch, especially when they figure out what the tool can be used for. Yeah. I'm in awe of how this movie can get through the years. We're in 2022, and it still holds up, and nothing seems implausible, or that you're watching something that was made in someone's backyard.
So it's definitely would be made today.
Oh God, I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? That's an interesting. I think there's an audience. I mean, look at the success of Interstellar, a film that from Christopher Nolan that certainly is heavily inspired by 2001. 2001, and again, I mentioned the box office returns too. This is a movie that has to be seen in theaters too. I'm so envious of anyone who's able to see it for the first time on the big screen. I mean, that has to be just.
Have you ever been to
Not
someone
yet.
showing it on screen?
It's on the bucket list.
Okay.
If anyone were to make this film today, it would come straight out of A24. I don't know if it would really get made by Hollywood. You'd probably have to go more in indie.
Interesting. Yeah.
But it's just like A24 makes a lot of movies that just kind of almost feel like they come out of like I lost my train of thought there. But they all have this similar kind of vibe to 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's just like almost hard to make sense of. It's probably going to take a couple viewings to really get it. I'd
say a couple thousand. You really get. Yeah. I mean, it's one of, and I think a lot of us too, how we grade or evaluate a film that really just stands the test of time is, can you watch it every single time and still learn something new or have a different
I love those type of movies.
Yeah. And truly, this film is right there with any other. I mean, I would put The Godfather right up there too.
Yeah.
And among other just ingenious works of art and
Star Wars for me.
Sure. Yeah.
Every time I watch it, something new. Raj, do you have any initial thoughts on 2001?
So the first time I watched this film, I was in high school and I fell asleep.
Oh boy. Okay.
But this was like we're watching it one class, and then we'll watch it the next day, and then we'll watch it the next day. So
you were on a lot of drugs then too, right?
I refuse to answer the
actually, that would have made it. Yeah, for yeah. No.
But we're watching it, and I just kind of fall asleep. But every other viewing, I was watching it, and you're just going like, "What the heck is this?"
Yeah.
But I also got accustomed to it via Saturday morning cartoon parodies of 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Okay.
Just like they'll probably play the music or
you were forced to through.
Through osmosis and things like that.
Sure.
Even like through games like Portal. GLaDOS, she's very much kind of in similar personality to HAL 9000. Things like that. But after viewing it, this is essentially my second time viewing the film. I think I got more out of it this time. Just like I think my favorite sections of the film are, the journey to Jupiter.
Sure.
The Dawn of Man.
Yeah.
And after that would probably be like the in between Dawn of Man, on the space station.
Yeah.
And I think my least favorite bit is the ending, because I think some of the stuff kind of goes on for a little too long, just a little bit. That's maybe one of my main critiques. But yeah, there's still so much to appreciate Stanley Kubrick's vision and everything like that. It's just he had a vision and he put it on screen, and I can't fault the guy for just making the film he wanted to make.
No, and I want to follow up on something you said too. It's funny, your initial reaction, you said it was, "What the heck is this all about?" Which I actually think, in a lot of ways, I wish every film was like that in some way. Because to me, the worst art is the most predictable art. If you know what you're getting yourself into, especially I would say comedy too. If you know what the punchline's going to be and the joke that's coming, that's not amusing. That's not fun at all. If you're going into a movie, you're going, I don't know what this is.
I try not to watch trailers for this reason.
Yeah. And it totally takes you off guard, but it's something new, and it's an introduction to something else and something deeper. I think that, and by the way, you're not alone. I mean, Woody Allen talks about how the first time he saw it, 2001, did not like it at all, didn't get it. I'm not sure what other actors he used, but they weren't that positive. And then the second time he warmed up, and then by, I want to say the third or fourth time, he realized, okay, this is a master at work here, making something that's going to stand the test of time. So yeah, you're definitely not alone in that category. In fact, I don't know if I know, maybe Lito, maybe you are in this category. I don't know if I know too many people who the first time they saw 2001, they said, "Oh, I know what this is." Okay, or even like we're that enthralled. I think I'll be honest. I tried getting my wife to watch. She called it the worst movie ever. Which,
wow.
Yeah.
We're not divorced, of course. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it's. So I think you have to really prepare yourself and go and almost tell yourself, look, the first time you're going to see this, it's not going to make a lot of sense. You might be frustrated at times, or maybe as you were saying too, some of the scenes may feel like that they're a little long, but it's the ultimate, I think, rewarding experience when you can really start to see what the pieces, when they all fit, really look like.
Just the maybe this time around, I was enjoying the shots of the spaceship going by better because I just kept thinking of Spaceballs.
Hey, whatever helps. Yeah, yeah.
What's funny is like it's an homage to how great the film is. It was when people parodied it and
100%,
satired it.
100%. Yeah.
I mean, they also enjoy the film and love it and want.
I mean, look at all the Battlefield Earth parodies out there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, you look at Family Guy and you just see all the references to like all these other films. You know, it's just like when I was a kid, I'd never noticed like, oh, they're parodying Airplane. Oh, they're parodying this. They're doing all this. Yeah. But as I grow older, it's like, oh, okay, that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
I think The Simpsons have referenced Kubrick more than maybe any other director on the show.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
there's if you go on YouTube, you'll see compilations of all the Kubrick references. 2001, Shining, Full Metal Jacket, Clockwork Orange. I mean, it's all in there. And like you said, that's also indicative of truly great art.
Cool. Are you all set with your initial thoughts there, Raj?
Yeah, basically.
All right, cool. Well, so my thoughts are, I turned it on last night, and I don't think I've ever been able to make it through this movie without falling asleep.
Okay,
I'm with Raj.
All right.
I don't think I've watched this movie from start to finish yet at all. Like, I've seen it, it's only 2 times, but I think maybe I might have caught a part here or there somewhere. So, unfortunately, I think it's the music just puts me to like.
It can be hypnotic. I think there could be something to that. Yeah.
There's something. When I go see the orchestra here in town, I always like it. Just puts me in this state where I'm like super relaxed, and if I'm in that state, I tend to fall asleep. But it's not because the movie's bad. It's just because that's what happens when I listen to the music and everything is kind of quiet and nothing really is happening on the screen. I haven't like completely start to finish immersed myself in the movie, unfortunately. But like it doesn't mean I don't like it. It just means it just does something to me. It triggers me to like
relaxes you, if nothing else.
Shut down a little bit, right? Which is kind of cool.
Okay.
But
can I mention one more thing?
Absolutely.
It just came to mind. I love all the things that Stanley Kubrick kind of predicted. I love how he predicted in-movie flights.
Yep. Zoom or Skype.
Oh yeah, Skype, and he also predicted Skype. iPads.
Yeah.
It's just all these things where it's like you were talking about. It's like it's the best ones are the ones that predict what will probably happen in the future. And to this day, I still think this movie has the best way of explaining how people are able to move around in spaceships.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. But upon revisiting it, I was like, there's still things that probably don't make sense to me, like the way, because when they're flying in these like space shuttles and everything, it's like, oh, they have like these grav shoes or something, or grav boots.
Yeah, they make it's right on the screen, so like, you see it. So like,
but then you see people like on the space station just kind of like walking around in just normal shoes, and you're like, they should all really be wearing shoes like that. But it's just like it's the first one to make me think, yeah, that's how they'd probably be walking around.
So Kubrick did hire a company that had been making films for NASA as a design consultant. So there is that. But as we spoke about earlier in jest, or a little tongue in cheek about the moon landing hoax conspiracy, but again, if you're able to convince a sizable amount of people, or more than one person, that you're capable of filming a stage moon landing because of how remarkable 2001: A Space Odyssey was visually at portraying space and all the special effects involved, then I think that says something that no other review can represent.
Excellent. And then I also saw a lot of Star Wars, like some of the way the ship looks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like almost the same lighting as the Death Star.
I think George Lucas was inspired.
Oh, big time. The hangar scene is just like when the Millennium Falcon goes. It's almost like the rectangle that goes through. I saw so much Star Wars in there that I was like, this is awesome. Like, this is where, Star Wars got its start.
Yeah,
great.
I mean, you mentioned the Star Wars is one of your
Absolutely.
all-time favorites.
Yeah.
Do you think Star Wars exists without 2001?
Not some of the visual look. I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he definitely, got his. I want this to look like this movie.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Inspiration's really
Yeah.
strong. Yeah.
Right.
We'll probably use some of the techniques they used in the first in 2001 to make our film.
Right. Were they both shot in England? I don't know. Or Britain?
So Kubrick made all of his films in the UK once he moved there.
Okay.
But some of this was filmed in the United States as well.
Oh, really?
I imagine they probably shot the desert scenes in somewhere in the Los Angeles area.
Oh, makes sense.
Yeah, very likely. That's actually a good question.
Because don't they have like, doesn't Hollywood have the backlots where like they shot like the Notorious Gorn episode for Star Trek, or a lot of the desert episodes for Star Trek?
I thought they shot that at Red Rock, or
something like that. There was like a desert place somewhere that Hollywood has access to. There's like, okay, we're just gonna go shoot. I don't know the name of the location per se.
So apparently the landscape shots, and we're you find this out in real time.
Yeah.
We're breaking news, but the landscape shots were filmed in Southwest Africa.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, you're talking about the scenes during the Stargate sequence once he lands. Okay, yeah, that apparently was actually.
Well, I was thinking more so the beginning.
Oh, the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The Dawn Man sequence that was shot in Africa.
Okay.
So, the first time I actually, because I took film study in high school. I think they might have talked about this film, and you always saw this film in the AFI's top 100 list, or maybe top 10 even. So I always knew about the film, but I just never really sat down and watched it. So when DVDs came in, and when we're making the transition from VHS tape to DVDs, I was like, I bought a bunch of DVDs because I thought this is the latest greatest. Nothing's going to be better than DVDs. So I bought the Stanley Kubrick collection, and it had 2001: A Space Odyssey in it. And
I had the same collection. Yeah,
the white with this.
Yeah,
it's all like white.
The collection is that's what I do. 2001. There's a Kubrick. It's 4 films. It's 2001, Eyes Wide Shut, Barry Lyndon, The Shining.
No, it was more.
It's like 4 in 1. It was like to me, it was like the greatest purchase of my life
Yeah.
in terms of value and what I paid for it.
It was Barry Lyndon, 2001, Doctor Strangelove, Lolita.
There you go.
And Lolita, and there's one more.
Was it Pass the Glory, maybe?
No, it wasn't
Killing.
Spartacus.
No.
Rush Hour 2.
What's that movie that he disowned? He made one movie where it's like it's a World War I or World War II movie.
He didn't make that many movies. It seemed like.
I don't think he ever disowned one.
Oh, Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah,
Oh, there you go.
that's
Okay.
what it was. That's what it was.
The
Okay.
Vietnam- yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I bought that, and then I'm like, okay, I went through them all, and then it was like time to put on 2001, but I put it on like super late. So after the bone went up, you saw the spaceship.
I think you always have to watch it at night, though. It feels like it'd be odd watching it 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It feels like a.
I'm going to have to disagree with you, Kevin. I think we should I should watch it. Me personally should watch it during the day.
That way you don't fall asleep.
Exactly,
Okay.
because that's exactly what happened on the spaceship. I was out. Next thing I know, the movie was done, and I'm like, what happened?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. So that was the first time I watched it, and the second time was last night, and I passed out during different parts last night as well. I wanted to stay up, but I think I'm going to have to watch this, on the Saturday afternoon.
Okay.
And make sure I get through it.
Well, that's the most important thing. Actually, stay awake. Yeah.
But I did, I did do my full notes. I still got plenty to.
Oh, I see your homework.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not like I didn't. It's just I don't know what I missed, but I can piece stuff together.
There's one thing that I really do appreciate this film that in any other film you probably get annoyed with, or just to go like, why you should have done this. The lack of sound, especially when it's like out in space, because you're out. There's no way space can sound can exist in space, unless you're like in something. But when you're out there and you just like something bangs close by, you're not going to hear it. And so like the scene when Bowman's going through the airlock. Just don't hear anything.
Right.
It's not until like he's able to close the airlock and everything where it's like shh, and he's like, okay, we're back. He's back. Okay, and he has to wear the spacesuit because God knows what Hal's done. You know, maybe there's no air in the ship still, or maybe Bowman just doesn't care and he has to get rid of Hal ASAP. It's just all these like little things.
Yeah, it makes it more suspenseful in that way.
Or the scene when the other guy, what's the other guy's name? Kyle?
Frank?
Frank, maybe.
Frank Poole?
Yeah, Frank Poole. Okay. Yeah, when he's out, all you could hear is that breathing of air kind of, and I imagine that's just kind of the only thing he's really able to hear. Probably how the machinery works or how his spaceship works or something. All these like audio details that I just really enjoy, and I felt like they did a really good job with that.
Cool.
Yeah, it's hard to be critical of much, but yeah, the sound and how unsettling it is at times because there's just nothing, and I think that's to your point exactly. I mean, if you're going to depict space, you wouldn't want it noisy and boisterous and a big party. It's quite the opposite.
Star Trek later movies.
Okay.
It was just like explosions, and you could just hear them, and it's like that's not us.
Well, it's an action movie. You kind of hear the booms.
Just bumping out there. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about how our interpretations of the film. What's Stanley trying to say with this masterpiece?
Evolution.
Yeah,
Kevin?
I think that it's a story about evolution. It's a story about birth, about rebirth. The relationship between technology and man, I think, is a really fascinating one that's explored. But also, it's never been more relevant than now. I mean, I really wonder. Think about the technology that we've seen since 1968 when the film came out. What the world looks like now compared to then. It's almost at a frightening pace, the way technology is rapidly evolving. And there is that, again, I think I mentioned this earlier, but the Frankenstein quality to it too. Do we create something like, whether it's artificial intelligence or some other form of technology that almost overtakes us at some point?
Wow, the THX had a little bit of that.
Yeah. And it's the Terminator, or, things of that nature. So that exists, and I think that unfortunately today, whether it's through things like automation where it replaces workers, so it's not quite the same as,
or the Roomba.
Yeah,
my daughter doesn't do the vacuuming anymore. We have a little robot now.
It makes us more expendable in some ways.
Or frees us up to be, less time on menial tasks and more times to dream.
Or is it also is there more of a subtle, almost insidious way where we're morphing into these gadgets? The amount of time we spend, I would argue, maybe you guys would disagree, but there are plenty of people who are spending more time virtually engrossed in whether it's being online, communicating with others, or just working online, especially post-COVID, the laptops, than they are in the real world, the physical world. So, that relationship between man, technology, the dangers of it, that's never been more relevant, I think, than now. And unfortunately, I'm not sure that, and especially with artificial intelligence. I mean, there are those who will talk to you about how there's going to be a fourth industrial revolution, and it's going to be led by AI, and what that will all look like in 10 years, 20 years. So Kubrick was onto something.
I mean, like you even have AI that can write scripts. They're not great, but it's like they have the ability to try and make something somewhat cohesive. So we're on some weird track. But something I kind of took notice of is, the first tool ever created by man. That stick that the original man used to as a weapon.
Right.
And like the latest and greatest, the latest technology we kind of bit is kind of like HAL 9000.
Yep.
It's just like the original tool was created, for reasons of like, maybe we could use this for, they could probably use it as like ways to defend you or things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, but it's still on its own. It's just, if no one's using it, no one can harm it. But technology has advanced such in a way where it's like the tool doesn't even need your like usage anymore. It's like if it wants to kill you, it'll just kill you.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's
So
just-
the bone was
yeah.
before used
Yeah.
as a weapon to kill.
Yeah.
Whereas Hal is also a murderous weapon.
and,
But-
and not only is it a murderous weapon, it's also somewhat of a living, its own version of a living creature.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Again,
just like
Hal, we see Hal panic. I mean, it's funny because we don't actually see a dot or a red eye. We don't see that, but we know that this artificial intelligence has these emotions of fear and anger.
we don't really know that. Like they say, it's supposed to kind of mimic, but it's like there's still that thing where it's just like a computer program could just be trying to do its best to try and convince you not to turn it off. But there is still that bit of unknown where it's like when Hal, in the most monotone version ever, is just pleading, going like, "I can feel it."
Right.
And it's just like you see it even on Bowman's eyes. It's like he doesn't really want to do this.
Sure,
he's
sure,
just like
yeah.
he's kind of. It's like what you were saying about emotion and things like that. It's just like you kind of feel like him. It's just like he's killing a living creature almost.
And the thing is, he's doing it stone cold. So in that moment, Hal's more human.
Oh yeah,
because he's pleading and he's suffering, and then Dave, like you said, is just kind of
I kind of saw some like sadness in his eyes.
Some, but I think it's the more robotic element of him that has to say, hey, this is what you have. This has to be done. Do not take the sentimental, emotional considerations into account here.
Yeah, because if he does that, Hal will probably try and kill him again.
Right.
Like I can't fault Bowman for doing it, but it's just like one of those things where it's like, this is hard to watch. Not in there's no like there's nothing happening here. It's like, oh, it's so boring. It's more like, oh, this is just hurting my emotions almost in a way. Hal was just kind of afraid.
Well, and I think as an audience too, we're kind of conflicted, in some ways as well.
The movie, like, to me, I didn't pick up and like I wasn't like locked in until Hal was reading the lips,
Right.
and processing the information that they're talking about turning him off.
Sure.
And like that's when I was like, whoa, like now I'm in, I'm locked in, I want to know how the story goes now.
Yeah.
But the rest of it was just kind of like, I don't know, like kind of just like sleepwalking and kind of just meandering in and out of the story and just like, well, do I have to like pay attention here? I don't know, like, but after Hal gets threatened, I don't know, that must be the drama coming in to just kind of save the day for me as a
that conflict.
The conflict, right?
Just that like almost horrifying moment when Bowman has gotten Frank's body, and he's like open the pod bay doors, and he's like Hal's like, yeah, I know you were trying to kill me, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then Hal's just like, although you took careful precautions to make sure I didn't hear you, I could see your lips move. And Frank has and Bowman has that moment where it's like he doesn't like completely freak out, but it's just like, damn it. He's just like, God.
Yeah, what I get myself into.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, the red dot was like sitting right there, right in front of their window, and they move in and talk to each other, and it's like, how does?
But that's the brilliance of it too. Yeah, I mean, think about like the scary monsters or the villains in classically speaking in cinema. They're these ugly, sometimes large, menacing figures. This is a red dot.
It doesn't blink or anything.
Right.
It just sits
I
there.
think the scariest you can ever get with like horror movie monsters or villains is the more human ones.
That's it. Yeah.
Just to me, one of the scariest movie antagonists ever is just Anthony Perkins' Psycho.
Sure.
In real life, I went to a wax museum, like all these people, that they wax museumed, and the scariest one for me was a Jeffrey Dahmer with like just a little bit of blood on his coming down out of his mouth. You know what I mean? That was it.
Yeah.
I was like, that scared me the most out of like anything like I saw that was like fake. Like medieval torture or whatever. Stuff
Small
like that.
world. Jeffrey Dahmer's dad was my substitute teacher once.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Wow.
But he didn't have any blood coming from his.
That's good. Yeah, you don't want to see that. But Raj, did you have any more thoughts on your interpretation of what Stanley Kubrick was trying to achieve here?
There's still probably so much to talk about. Like, just I almost feel like the end of the movie is past, you know for sure, you know, well, I mean, you don't know for sure, but it's just like where you began, and you know where the middle of the film is. It's like where we're at now, even though it's like technically in the future and things like that.
Right.
But the ending, I really feel like it's almost we don't know where we're gonna go. We have no idea what the future entails for us. But you know, it could be hopeful, it could be bad, but we just have to make do with what we're gonna get. You know, it's just like maybe we will be giant fetuses in space. And that was actually something. When I was in high school, our nickname for the floating fetus was Cletus the space fetus.
Oh, okay.
It's just what we came up with, and
I wish I hung out with people in high school that had nicknames for the Star Child. We had other nicknames, but no, but to your point too, I think that it's only natural that the final shot or the image that we see on the screen of the future of humanity, or some type of, as I said, Ubermensch, the natural evolution from that, should look completely odd, foreign, unfamiliar, because as of right now, that's the idea. If it would almost be too. And the other thing too is interesting on that is we don't see any aliens. It's a sci-fi movie, maybe the only sci-fi movie without aliens.
But we see their technology.
Right.
In the monolith.
But you don't see goofy green guys. You don't see cone heads or what have you. There's none of that. It's just there's the human beings, there's the AI, and then of course, as we just said, there's whatever Star Child is.
And Lito, to what you were saying about it, technology, we don't even know if that's technology. It could just be its own separate entity in entirety. Like, we don't know what the black monoliths are.
Right. And again,
it's like Stonehenge to me. To me, it seemed like Stonehenge, like kind of like, what is it? Like, I don't know. It's sitting here. It's nice. It looks carved. Somebody put it there. It's in a ring for a reason, or it's sitting there. It's in the moon. It's on, like the cavemen are looking at it. It's on Jupiter. Like, why? Who did it? Like, what is it? Like, I don't know.
It makes you think. It makes you question.
Yeah.
But again,
question your reality, really.
Right. And that I can't say enough great things or give enough praise to a movie or any piece of art that makes you do that. But it's making you question it, but there's enough interest to know what it is too. It's not just so bizarre, so abstract that you're just you lose. A lot of us, and people have continued for years to debate the meaning of the monolith, because of course there's something significant there. I mean, you're not seeing the monolith sitting at a booth at Denny's. I mean, you see the monolith in these pivotal times in civilization, and so it's.
Are they Mothmen?
Are you the Mothman?
I don't know.
The Mothman.
The Mothman? The symbol of something. Something's going to happen.
Do you know the Mothman?
The Muffin Man from 25 Muffin Lane. He's doing a Shrek thing.
Well, it's not even that. It's the Muffin Man is a kid's song.
What is the Mothman? Is that just like Chupacabra?
Yeah, it's similar.
Bigfoot.
Okay.
Whenever there's a disaster,
he's a second cousin of.
Like a disaster is about to happen. Okay. People report that there's a Mothman that they see, a person, like kind of like an apparition, like an angel, saying, "Hey, something bad's going to happen." One happened in southern Ohio.
Yeah. It's like the Grim Reaper.
Well, it's
kind of like a symbol.
It also is kind of like a creature, like a humanoid moth-looking thing that has psychic powers or things like that, and it's just like it's also like, isn't it also known in like West Virginia or something?
Yeah, in southern Ohio, yeah. There was a bridge that fell. Yeah. Like 40 people died in that range, which is real. And people reported that they saw this Mothman show up before that. I think they were even, if you look up Mothman, they might even talk about one before 9/11. Anytime there's some kind of tragic event.
Oh, the Mothman was at the Twin Towers?
I think I remember kind of hearing something. I could be wrong though. Don't quote me on it. But there's a movie. Richard Gere made a movie about it. So there's
Mothman Prophecy or something.
I think so, something like that.
Mothman hangs out at First Energy Stadium a lot.
Oh my goodness, thank you. Yeah. Fellow Browns fan. Yeah, absolutely every Sunday.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Dog Pound.
Yeah, he's got a Baker Mayfield jersey on. Yeah. So. So I was looking into like what my interpretation of the film is Stanley Kubrick. This is his version of our evolution, like I said, there's other religions that say otherwise. I'm not even talking about just Adam and Eve. There's other, religions that I don't even know about that have a way of how we evolved or how we came to be. But I think this is Stanley Kubrick saying, hey, like this is what I think happened. We evolved from apes, and then this is where we're going to the Star Child. So I think this is like his map, is his course, how humans are going to evolve.
But to that point, Lito, and this is something that you mentioned too, Roger, the technology we see on the spaceship, the version of Skype, Zoom, the technology that they're using, iPads. So far, he's batting 1,000 in a lot of this stuff.
Absolutely.
So, he might be onto something when it comes to the next step.
Oh, and the fact that there was that delay, in between, like, it's like when BBC was interviewing them, he's like, all right, we had to cut out the 7 minutes of footage and things like that. It's just like, I can imagine that happening if it's happening in space.
Right.
And they're all the way nearing Jupiter and things like that.
Every detail. Nothing was overlooked. It's not like, because even just some truly iconic films, you can go back and see some flaws or some editing errors. I don't think that exists with 2001.
I think I might notice some weird looking, like when they land on the moon, I believe. I think there's like maybe it doesn't look the most convincing, but I mean, there's maybe some outdated technology or things like that.
There might be, but I haven't found it. It's just
So I think the discovery part, is kind of important because, and in the movie, they're concerned about how people on Earth are going to take the news, and I think this film is helping, like us, like our world, kind of like deal with the idea that we're not alone, and if that is real to some people who have strong faith in higher beings, that could shatter like their whole grasp on their reality. So I think this is kind of like help, just like get people start thinking like, hey,
there might be something that exists beyond us.
Yeah.
In a different planet.
And if that's the case, what you believe now might not be true, and that's kind of scary. Just to let you know.
What do you think? What do you guys think would have happened if Hal went there by himself?
Who?
Hal.
Hal?
Yeah, if he got to Jupiter by himself, do you think the monoliths would have just done nothing? It's just like, well, we were expecting humans here.
Could Hal see that?
That's
speaks to a broader point, perhaps, that the limits of technology and that the need for humans, on some level, there's just certain things that humans are capable of that we present, that any form of other artificial intelligence.
We had this whole room ready and everything. He was gonna like eat these meals, and there was gonna be like this shocking. It's like, oh, he sees his future, but it's just this AI. You killed everyone, Hal. What the heck? You made a huge mistake.
So, and I thought, this movie talked about artificial intelligence and how, unchecked, it could become its own thing and its own being, and see us as a threat, Terminator, and try to take us out. So, and then plus the Star Child, the next evolution. And one thing I want to talk about, you guys know about the Age of Aquarius? Ushering in the Age of Aquarius.
Yeah. I'm a little vague on that. Maybe you could explain it to the audience.
Yeah, the Age of Aquarius is when us as a human species is going to take the next, like, a mental leap. Okay. So I'm going to read verbatim off of this website, medium.com. The Age of Aquarius is a phrase used by astrologers to describe the current time period. This phrase is derived from the belief that between the years of now and 2015, Earth will experience a new age where human consciousness will evolve into higher understanding of truth and reality.
So it's like Looper. We'll somehow get like telekinesis or things like that.
Right. Yeah, we're gonna like evolve to the next stage of mentally, of accepting higher thoughts and higher ideas and higher beliefs.
We'll have microchips in us.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
Is that part of it? Or?
No,
Maybe-
that's not a part of it.
Maybe we
this is-
literally need an upgrade or something. We need to install chips in us.
Yeah.
The Kevin, was it the iPhone 13 with the Kevin 35 or Kevin, yeah. Kevin 9000. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you want to check out more stuff about the Age of Aquarius, you'll understand, and I think it ties into the Star Child, and as far as how that all kind of goes into effect here. So if you don't know it, we're in the Age of Aquarius now, so just shedding some of our older thoughts and accepting newer thoughts, kind of. So yeah, and that will take us to some of the behind the scenes. Do you have any cool behind-the-scenes stories about this movie, Kevin?
Oh, I can only imagine what it was like being on the set.
Kind of like a tyrant in charge, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, so that's interesting. If you ask Shelley Duvall, I'm sure she would.
Yeah.
Although, she has what it sounds like, and I think a lot of the actors have a very ambivalent relationship with Stanley Kubrick. I mean, first of all, I would have certainly just been in awe of him the whole time. I would have just been like a sponge and just soaked up. People speculated his IQ was like maybe 200. I mean, and again, we're discussing 2001, which that in itself is ambitious to discuss it, especially because again, it is, as I've said 1,000 times already, it's a visual medium, so it really is. It's not the easiest film to discuss, but we can go on and on about symbolism in the film,
right,
and all the things that are layered in there. So you're working with a guy who's his brain, in terms of cinema, is right up there with anyone else's, I'd say. But he might even be on the same level as Leonardo da Vinci.
That's awesome. And he made a film for us, like 2 hours. Like we're watching a 2.5 hour painting of da Vinci.
In 2001, the thing is, I'm not even sure it's his best film. I mean, it is a masterpiece, but you can come in here and tell me that Barry Lyndon is his best movie. You can tell me The Shining. You can make an argument for pretty much any of his films.
Just because the Path of Glory to me is
my
favorite.
Yeah. I think there are definitely other Stanley Kubrick movies I'd rather watch.
Yeah.
But it's not to say that there's no quality here. It's not like you're not going to get anything out of it.
If you get nothing out of it, it says more about you than not you, of course.
Oh no,
but about the viewer than the artist. But yeah, I think that there are more stories. Even like I mentioned The Shining for a bit. What's interesting is that we actually do have behind the scenes footage, videos of The Shining because his daughter filmed them.
Oh, nice.
Vivian Kubrick filmed it. And so you see Stanley Kubrick on a typewriter. You see Jack Nicholson horsing around with other cast members, and you can see Kubrick work too. You can also see him yell at Shelley Duvall.
And apparently, he treated Shelley Duvall like garbage throughout the entire.
And
thing.
it's not to defend that necessarily, but there's a method to the madness.
So Shelley Duvall's character is supposed to be hysterical. Exactly. She's supposed to be losing her mind.
Isolated.
Like isolated. And Kubrick thought the best way to achieve that was to essentially drive Shelley Duvall crazy.
Yep. Yeah.
And it even hurts a little bit because there'll be times where Kubrick, will be working with Jack Nicholson, and he'll go like, "Yeah, you were doing great, Jack. Shelley, you could do it better."
Right.
It's just like, oh.
No, it's very deliberate, and I think that you have to kind of know what you're signing up for. But keep in mind, Stanley Kubrick was also a master chess player. He played chess at a really young age. And another example of Kubrick, the chess player, on set as a director is when he's directing Dr. Strangelove, and he has George C. Scott's character be just completely over-the-top ridiculous. George C. Scott refused to do that for a while because he's like, no, this is just too obnoxious. This is too
wacky,
over the top for me. But Kubrick told him, no, I'm not going to use it. I just want to see you do it. Well, of course, Kubrick uses it.
Oh, wow.
He uses that footage. Yeah. But I'm sure George C. Scott watches like everybody else. He understands why. And, that character is hysterical. But that's, Dr. Strangelove, it has to be very kind of, there you go.
George C. Scott was just so angry what he said.
Sure.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, you were signing up for, and then that's the actors. You want to work with Stanley Kubrick, you never know.
But it did get him. But after that, it did kind of allow George C. Scott to get the role as the director. Patton. Okay. It was like it's all like, he's so good.
His career, sure.
I just love in the article I read about that. The guy who dropped the bomb, and rode it like a horse. It was
Slim Pickens. Yeah.
Slim Pickens. He was like, "Wait, you're telling me the movie where I drop out of an atomic bomb like a horse riding it like a horse. That wasn't supposed to be a comedy.
Good point. So, any stories, Raj?
Yeah, it's not really pertaining to this one because all the interesting ones are in other films. Shelley Duvall stuff. I remember I saw an interview with Malcolm McDowell about the making of
Clockwork Orange.
Yeah, Clockwork Orange. Sorry, Kubrick was kind of almost kept to himself almost, things like that. And Malcolm McDowell one day went up to his room or something, and went up to Stanley Kubrick's room, and he was like, Kubrick had some headphones on and he was listening to something, and Malcolm McDowell thought it's like, oh, it's just something, he's probably working, and he just kind of waited there, and then eventually he got up to a point where he went to go talk to Kubrick, and he's like, what were you listening to? And it was like, I was listening to a baseball game. My team's winning.
No, the other thing he was listening to was like air traffic control. He somehow was able to listen to make sure the planes were landed. Because Kubrick...
Oh, for filming?
Well, no. Kubrick, he had a pilot's license, but he was definitely afraid of flying.
Oh, wow.
So figure that out. I guess that's quite the juxtaposition. But so with Malcolm McDowell and Kubrick, that was interesting because they became very close on set. But then after the film ended, I don't think Kubrick really talked to him much after that. And then I think that hurt Malcolm McDowell.
Wow.
But Malcolm McDowell, by the way, I mean, again, iconic performance, Clockwork Orange.
Absolutely.
You know what you see. I mean, that character, the look.
Yeah, the eye.
Oh, of course. Yeah, the eyelash. And and then the torture scene where...
beating up his friends. Yeah, the torture scene.
Yeah, with the Drew. Then there's...
Walking down the street. Why did you beat up? Oh, because they kind of did something out of character, right? He beats up his friends for like something before. Yeah, that's right. For trying to beat you. Yeah, right.
The character's a complete sociopath. Yeah.
Guys, are you familiar with the Kubrick Stare?
Of course. Yeah.
Lito, are you familiar with?
No.
So it's this shot that's kind of used throughout his films, where it's like there's a character that's just like super serious, almost like he's lost his mind, almost.
Oh.
You get it from Pyle and.
Yep, Private Pyle.
Okay. You get it from
yep.
You
Jack
get
Nicholson,
Jack Nicholson. You get it from Malcolm McDowell.
And the opening shot of the film of Clockwork, it's a close up of him staring right in the camera.
Yeah, it's always like it's almost like they're looking up almost. I'm almost convinced, like, we don't get to see it, but I'm almost convinced Hal's doing the Kubrick Stare. Just
I agree. No. That's absolutely correct.
Yeah, I'm almost convinced if he had a face, he would be straight up to be doing the Kubrick Stare.
You can, I've seen them. You can see montages of the Kubrick Stare, and you can easily just include Hal in there. The way that it's framed.
He's thinking. He's planning something.
Absolutely. My only behind the scenes. I mean, I just doing a little bit of research. I heard that he got NASA involved, or scientists involved, or people who actually build space stations and actually wanted to duplicate the look and everything, and kind of make the most realistic space movie possible and how everything works. And then, I really like that shot where the people are in the pods, and it's kind of like on a wheel almost.
Yeah.
And then she's like pulling, like, how did he do that? That's awesome.
Right.
But I mean, that just helps me like immerse myself in the film when I am.
Oh yeah. I imagine there's this whole like
before
set.
He goes on the couch.
I imagine they created this whole set which will revolve, and they had to stick the camera at a certain point.
That was amazing, awesome work.
But I also imagine that it's Inception. I think took inspiration for with the scene in the hallway where Joseph Gordon-Levitt's running, and the hallway is just moving around and things like that. But so they, in order to do that, they had to create this whole set that would, flip around, things like that, rotate, and so this 2001, it's still inspiring films.
All right, and talking about that and filmmaking, and we're all filmmakers at this table. How can we make this film better, Kevin?
I'm gonna leave this one alone. I'm not gonna change a single frame.
Not one thing.
No.
All right. Well, unfortunately,
you can't mess with perfection. It'd be like trying to paint the Mona Lisa.
I respect that. I respect that 100%. Absolutely. Raj?
Speed up some of the footage. That's my only thing. Maybe certain shots go on for a little too long. That's my only thing. But
I've got the most notes on this one.
Okay.
Oh, geez.
So I'm saying, I say make it shorter. Make everything shorter. the early dawn, and let's and they call it an Odyssey. Kind of throws me a little bit because it does talk like kind of make me think about Homer. And I don't know, like when I think about it, it's like, yeah, I hear you guys a journey, but like from island to island and mystic stuff. I get it.
Well,
I don't know. To me, I think it should be an anthology almost. This film should be an anthology. Yeah, go ahead.
If I could say something, there is that journey from Earth to Jupiter and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole thing about Homer, the Odyssey is, what's the Odysseus? Odysseus keeps going to random places,
right,
and he can't really control it. I don't think it's any particular. I don't think it's any particular character in this film. I think we are the characters going on the Odyssey. Yeah. We're experiencing all these different things.
Okay, that's cool. That's great.
Yeah, the closest would be Dave Bowman, his character.
Yeah,
but yeah, to your point exactly. It's a broader idea.
It's almost like it's not.
That helps me a little bit then.
Mm-hmm. It's just like, okay, now we're going here. Okay, now we're here. Now we're here. Now we're here.
I'm learning. But yeah, I think maybe somehow. I was always. I mean, I think of it like a movie, like start to finish, like the 3-act structure. I was totally like unprepared to look at this as a 4-part thing, so I was thinking maybe it would work more as an anthology type of thing and be upfront about it. But and then cut the early dawn scene down a little bit, cut the Jupiter psychedelic scene a little bit.
It
just goes on too long.
Where I think maybe certain scenes go on a little too long. It is a personal thing, but it's like there's just certain bits I go like, okay, I'm gonna just check my phone.
Lito wants to make this a short film. Is that correct?
Shorter film? Yeah.
Just a short. Just a 2001 20-minute movie.
Well, they notoriously did cut the. Sorry.
I am like a 1-2 minute filmmaker.
There you go. Just bone, space, and then baby.
It is notorious about this film. It's like there was a 168-minute cut or something that they showed. That they showed originally.
Yeah.
But people saw it and it was like, this is what is this? And it's something. They immediately pulled it out of theaters and they had to cut it down.
Rock Hudson was famously quoted as saying, "What the hell?" or sorry, "What the heck is this crap?" or something to that effect.
And someone said,
I'm cleaning it up, but yeah.
And someone said, like after they saw the movie, it's like, "What a trip" or something. And it's like
almost like an acid.
That's the tagline. Yeah. That's our tagline.
Oh, that's the tagline? What a trip?
No.
The ultimate trip.
Yeah, but it's like where they got it. It's like
and they're having fun. They're nodding towards psychedelics and because again, this is 1968.
Right.
So
yeah. It's
around
that time.
At that point, sure.
I'm sure the LSD's around.
Yeah, and not that Kubrick was tripping or anything like that.
No, but
I mean, we don't know.
We don't know.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, you never know. You never know. But yeah, I would cut down some of the art house stuff.
I don't think he needed a trip. I think his brain was already seeing things that no one else was seeing.
And just make it kind of like a more, I don't know, the music and stuff. Like I said, it was
more song and dance, maybe.
Just like less music and more dialogue. But I don't know. That's just me. I'm a simpleton. I am not a 200 IQ guy. I am average Joe to the max.
We can't fault you for your 10 IQ.
Thank you.
10.
I'm just speaking for
I suppose you got a bed.
The lower-minded being.
Oh, so the ape. You're the ape.
I am definitely still the ape.
Yeah.
You're not Hal.
This movie is the monolith.
Right.
You don't know what to make of it.
And it's rated PG. I would like. It's rated G. I would like to see maybe a PG-13 or an R rating and maybe some more action.
Some sex in there too, maybe on the spaceship.
Hey, why not? It's like a nipple
have a scene
slip.
where they have sex with Hal.
A good old put it on HBO. Put a nipple slip, and I'm a happy guy. So I don't know. Call me weird.
I'll watch that movie. I'll watch some of 2001.
And then it in reality, and then science fiction. Oh my God, does it always have to have some sort of horror element to it? Because
that's true. I don't need too many cheerful sci-fi movies. There's always some element of dystopia involved.
We talked about this last week. Every single movie that has like some sort of spaceship journey it's going to end in some kind of disaster or something bad.
there's
something
always,
really bad's going to happen.
Yeah, ominous on the way.
Yeah, they have a plan, but it's somehow one little event, and they're off course, and it's just like
Apollo 13.
Well, it'd be kind of boring if there was no peril involved, right?
Well, at Astra.
That's why I referenced The Martian almost. It's just like
If you're just watching astronauts just hang out in space.
I guess it's not the Discovery Channel. If it's Hollywood. So those are basically my notes. Take them or leave them, and definitely leave them. So any final thoughts on this one before we get to recommendations, Kevin?
No, I just I'm envious of people who have not seen it because it's like listening to maybe Dark Side of the Moon for the first time or seeing the Grand Canyon. It's that monumental of an experience. So. I mean, I feel like anyone who gets to watch it for the first time, you're in for a treat. You got to buckle up, stay awake. Unlike Lito, stay awake.
Yeah, watch it during the
caffeinate yourself.
Caffeinate.
Do what you just got to do. But no, it's
absolutely.
It's still my bucket list to see it on a big screen, and I'm kind of ashamed that I haven't at this point. So
if they ever do it here, can we go together and you knock me if I'm dozing off?
Yeah, for sure.
Hey,
no, for sure. I'm not kidding.
There are screenings out there that show The Room on a big theater. So if they do that, there's
I could see it at the Cinematheque.
Yeah,
but I feel like I could be mistaken here, but I think that there was
at the Capitol.
The film was accompanied by an orchestra at Blossom at one point.
Oh, for real?
Maybe this is just a fantasy I have.
I go to those.
Wishful thinking, but
they did Star Wars.
Right. I know they did that. So I'm fairly certain that existed at least at some point for 2001 too. So
I could totally see that happening.
I could see it happening in like Los Angeles.
Yeah.
That did happen in LA. I was thinking at a local level it also occurred, but if not, then I'll have to find some people who can.
We'll have to go on our own Odyssey to go find.
There you go. Yeah. The Odyssey for the Odyssey.
But I'm going to put you down. If I ever see it on the big screen, I'm calling you up and we're going.
I'll drop what I'm doing.
Cool. And then,
I have a kid being born. To hell with the kid. I'm gonna go see 2000.
Unless it's a baby in a.
Final thoughts there, Raj?
Stanley Kubrick is one of my favorite film directors.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say he did a lot for his film to the point where it probably didn't ruin his reputation, but it's like you hear about the Shelley Duvall stuff and things like that, and it's just apparently there was another story about this one guy who had to pick up a phone or something and like answer it, and Stanley Kubrick made him do that 146 times.
I think you might be referring to Tom Cruise having to walk through a door a certain way.
I don't know.
Maybe it's both, but
for Eyes Wide Shut.
For Eyes Wide Shut, Tom Cruise made Tom Cruise walk through a door about at least 100 times.
I remember whoever it was said like, I did it fine. It's a shot. Just stop doing it. We need to move on. And he like ranted and he said he was going to quit. And it's like as soon as he calmed down, Stanley Kubrick was like, "Okay, let's do it again."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He's the director. He's allowed.
Yep.
At that point,
it's his show.
He earned, especially later in his career, he earned the right to
absolutely
have two. I mean, as painful as that would be on set to witness that or to be.
Would you guys watch a Stanley Kubrick biopic?
Oh yeah.
Well, it depends who's involved.
Mm-hmm.
It depends who's directing, of course, and who's playing him. Certainly potential.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend Stanley Kubrick: A Life in Pictures, a documentary on him.
Oh, there's cool.
Absolutely. Tom Cruise narrates it.
Oh, very
so
nice.
obviously he didn't piss off Tom Cruise too much. He was willing to narrate it.
Yeah.
And this, I'm 99% certain this was made posthumously too after he passed away in '99. So definitely check out Stanley Kubrick: A Life in Pictures.
Okay.
I have Kubrick biographies. I believe there was some type of Kubrick. Oh no. There was a film called Color Me Kubrick about a guy, I believe it stars John Malkovich, about a man who pretended to be Stanley Kubrick.
Interesting.
Posed as him for years. There's also documentaries about people who worked for Stanley Kubrick. One was like a driver for him. There's a documentary about his driver. There's a documentary about his personal assistant.
Yeah.
There's a documentary about The Shining.
Oh, of course.
Well, I mean,
actually, yeah.
Actually, yeah. There's
Room 237.
there's the one where it's like showing behind the scenes.
Yep.
And then there's the Room 237
Yep.
about all the crackpot crazy conspiracy theories that people have about The Shining.
Okay. So I don't know. My final thoughts are, I have not absorbed this movie yet. I'm in no hurry.
Yeah.
You know, I know you put the pressure on me to watch it for this podcast, but I think I'm gonna like fine wine. I'm gonna take I'm gonna take it in little small chunks, and I'm gonna absorb what I can, and I'm gonna keep going back to it. I own the film, so I got no worries about it not being in my streaming libraries or whatever. I own it on DVD. I'll always have that hard physical copy, and I'm sure as I grow older, it'll be waiting for me, and I'll be ready to take it on and look at it and watch it and learn.
You'll be like Dave towards the end as an old man dying in bed, and you'll watch it, and hopefully that'll be your moment.
You'll just be pointing at 2001: A Space Odyssey, going like, "I get you."
You'll finally connect with it. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm in no hurry. So yeah, let's talk about some movies that if you like this film, and who doesn't?
Mm-hmm. You don't.
I do. I said I do. I just
you said but you also said all those bad things about the film, so that automatically makes it that you don't like this film. You have the.
Well, let me ask you this, Kev. Are you upset of anything that I said about the film, or
no. I think that no, it's
since you brought this one up, like
no, it's fascinating to hear other people's perspectives on it, because I think I guess you could say it's a polarizing movie. Mm-hmm. Not that it inspires a lot of acrimony or high emotions, but I think you either really love it, value it, and find it to be a transcendent experience, in some ways, or you don't really get it, or
you're just middle of the road.
Possibly, but I feel like it's you're kind of on one or two camps. I don't know too many people who are kind of neutral on it. I feel like it's either, again, it resonates with you and you revere it, or just don't get it, weird, not enough of this, not enough of that, move on. So
I think I learned a lot.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to watch it with knowing some deeper meanings and deeper understandings. So that's going to help me watch that film again and appreciate it way more than what happened last night.
Well, so. And again, this movie more than any other, I feel like requires multiple viewings. I mean,
sure.
And to me, it's rewarding, and there's always something I'm going to enjoy about it each time around. So yeah, I wouldn't beat yourself up over not feeling like you have a complete grasp of it after a couple of viewings.
Cool. So recommendations then?
Well, not many know about this. There is a sequel to 2001, 2010. The Voyage Home or something?
Who directed that? 2010?
Yeah, 2010, The Voyage Home.
I know there was a Leslie Nielsen parody called Space Oddity or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know about that.
Hold on.
That's news to me.
Leslie Nielsen Space
but yeah, like wasn't Stanley like not into sequels?
I'm sorry, Space Travesty. Leslie Nielsen's was 2001: A Space Travesty, masterpiece.
Like I said,
but the next film, it is more like a
2010. You said? I'm not.
Yeah, 2010.
Space Odyssey. Okay, it's a 1984 film. It is a sequel.
Yeah,
okay.
it has Hal's and Bowman's actors come back. They reprise their roles. It is more of like the Hollywood traditional sequel.
Yeah, it's Peter Hames is the director. Okay,
but it doesn't quite live up to it, from what I've heard.
Wow, how could it? Yeah.
But it's like people still seem to have like positive things to say about it.
Well, supposedly Arthur Clarke.
He made a sequel.
Well, he called Stanley Kubrick because exactly. So he wrote the novel 2010 Odyssey 2, and then he called Kubrick and said, "Your job is to stop anybody from making this into a movie." So that way he wouldn't be bothered. Because Kubrick had no interest in directing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to be honest. I have not seen 2010. It almost seems blasphemous to me. Maybe this just goes to your earlier point about religious element.
I think the film does explain some of the stuff more, and it's like,
sometimes when you're spoon-fed and you don't have free will to think.
Apparently throughout the film, there's still this huge conflict going on between the United States and the Soviet Union.
There's a Cold War element to it.
Yeah, and it's like that's funny. That's the Soviet Union is still around in 2010.
Right.
But if I were to also recommend a film, you know, I threw out 2010 just to let you know it's there, and maybe if you're
Yeah.
interested, check it out. But another film that just kind of comes to mind, you know, we talked about all those space mission things like that, but something more in lines of like a movie that kind of feels like this. I saw The Green Knight some time ago, and you know, it's almost like a make up your own interpretation of the film. So
The new version or the old version?
the new version.
Okay.
The new version. Green Knight starring Dev Patel.
So it's open ended.
It's up in the air.
Oh.
Like it ends oddly, and you're like, what? You know, sometimes it's up to you to wonder. It's like, was that real? What we just saw, was that real? Was that fake?
Right.
Or things like that. But if anything, it's just to look at the scenery that that the movie provides.
And Kevin, did we get your recommendations? I think I might have skipped over you.
So yeah, outside of any other Stanley Kubrick movies, the one big recommendation I would have would be Solaris, the 1972 Andrei Tarkovsky film.
Okay.
This is also, of course, a science fiction masterpiece. It's based on a novel from Lem's novel of the same name, and there have been kind of comparisons over the years between the two films.
Okay.
Similarities, the differences, but yeah, I strongly recommend that one. It's about loss. It's about also, you know, the mystery of the unknown, and of course, you know, just another science fiction film in the great era of cinema. So, and Andrei Tarkovsky is also just an ingenious filmmaker. So yeah, I would recommend Solaris. I'm not sure where exactly you can find that in terms of streaming right now. I'm sure you can find it online. You can purchase it online or go to your local library. But yeah, that would be my primary recommendation in terms of another great science fiction film.
Cool. Any other ones?
Ones that I feel like are on the same level as 2001. It's hard for me. I mean, I certainly wouldn't discourage anyone from going to see all the Star Wars movies. I think that there's naturally some similarities, but also I think that there's a bit of a real joy you get from Star Wars that you also get from watching 2001. So you can't go wrong there, of course.
Would you consider 2001 the thinking man's Star Wars?
No, because I think that diminishes the intellectual quality of Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars is filled, I think, at least, with plenty of fascinating and compelling themes and great characters, obviously, that are going to remain forever iconic. So, no, I think that'd be disparaging to Star Wars to say that you know, this is a thinking man's version. But I think Star Wars is more accessible. Certainly, it's not as ambiguous, and you know, I think that Star Wars can be enjoyed on a number of different levels and at a variety of ages. I don't think you can have a 5-year-old watch 2001: A Space Odyssey unless they're a prodigy of some sort and get a real fulfillment on their end. I think that a young child can watch Star Wars and enjoy it in some level.
Sure, true. Good points. All right. The films I got on mind are other than Star Wars. Ad Astra, I already talked about that. Alien.
Yeah, I think it's good. Yeah.
The Terminator, of course, and then the rest of them are AI kind of movies.
Sure.
Her.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
Yep.
Look at AI and things like
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm. And then Ex Machina.
Oh, there's also AI. The film that Kubrick was actually working on before
AI.
he passed away. Then
Right.
Spielberg took over and directed.
And yeah, my last one's like Bicentennial Man.
That, yeah, Robin Williams, of course. Yeah.
You know, his journey to become from a robot to
Yeah.
a human.
Maybe even
Those are all, they owe some debt of gratitude to 2001.
Absolutely, yeah.
maybe even The Matrix.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think,
where humanity might be headed.
not the new Matrix movie, but the original.
Yeah, I haven't made it through the whole new one yet.
I'm not even going to bother. The sequels.
Hey, don't you want to be reminded about The Matrix while watching a new Matrix film?
Yeah.
Don't you want to be reminded about how awesome the first one was? Why aren't you laughing? Huh?
Right, yeah.
Come on, laugh.
Anyways, what are you watching? What are you watching now? What are you reading now? Anything you wanna?
Sure. So I'm going to take this time to urge everyone to go see The King's Daughter. in
Which I am
theaters.
totally gonna check that out.
Yes, being released today in over 2,000 theaters, 2,100 theaters nationwide. But as far as other movies, I recently watched actually a great film from the 70s. the Robert Redford CIA film, 1975, Third Day of Cantor. Have you guys seen this?
Wow, no.
What's it called again?
It is. I'm gonna make sure that. I'm not
I
butchering
love
this.
discovering movies in the past and like being completely just blown away by their filmmaking ability back then, and I'm wondering if we can ever, make movies as good as how they made those in the past, because the stories are great, actings are always great. I mean, it's always
3
a
days.
pleasure.
Yeah, 3 Days of the Condor.
3 Days of the Condor.
Sorry, I'm gonna edit part of that.
No problem.
3 Days of the Condor, Sidney Pollack's 1975 film, Robert Redford. But espionage thriller, really high stakes, great acting from Redford. This is Rob Redford in his prime, at his most iconic, fresh off The Sting, followed closely then by All the President's Men a year later, and then The Natural down the road. But watched that again, really enjoyed that. Watching some great television, Succession. I think that's the best television show right now. Just started Wormwood, which is Errol Morris's series on Netflix.
No.
From 2017, 2018. So just started that. It's been something I've been watching for a long time. And yeah, there are films actually I want to see that are in theaters right now. I have not seen The Nightmare Alley, which is Guillermo del Toro's latest, Bradley Cooper. I've heard terrific things about that. I want to see Licorice Pizza, which is Paul Thomas Anderson's latest film.
Okay, of course.
So I need to get to the theaters. I haven't had the time, but yeah. So there are a number of films that I would really love to see, and I think there are more coming to. Martin Scorsese's The Flowers of the Killing Moon. That's his latest. That they just wrapped production, I believe. Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, about a murder.
Not the White City Devil in the White City murderer guy.
No, it's about a murder on a Native American reservation, Oklahoma. I want to say early 20th century.
Sounds good.
Yeah, no, whatever he does, I'll be there.
Yeah.
So excited about that. That should be coming out next year. And then they just announced actually Bong Joon-ho's hopefully his next project's going to be a sci-fi movie. So maybe we can discuss that at some point, the three of us again. Sci-fi movie with Robert Pattinson.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah.
You had me at Robert.
Robert, okay. So, well, yeah, could have done a number of ways, but
yeah.
So I right now I'm playing the game Halo Infinite, and I've been enjoying my time with that. It's like the first open world Halo game. Can get a little tedious at times traversing the map, but it's still fun. As for what I've been watching, I started watching the James Gunn created show Peacemaker.
Okay.
It's a sequel to the Suicide Squad that came out last year, and I've been enjoying my time with that. But I think the show I really want to recommend is I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson.
Oh yeah, that's good stuff.
Oh, it's
so funny.
I was dying laughing watching that show.
The Say no more.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Just don't say yeah.
To anyone, if you want to watch sketch comedy shows that are like really short,
I think you should
leave.
Yeah, I think you should. Yeah. It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're not telling you to leave. Like, watch the show. I think you should leave.
Just the whole
way to end the podcast. Though.
Yeah.
I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson. It's
Say no more. Yeah.
I was watching it on a trip to on a trip last week, and I had downloaded some episodes, and I was just like, there are some bits that are funny, but there was this one skit near the very last episode that just had me dying laughing. I was they had my family had to look at me and was like, what's so funny?
Shades of Mr. Show, if you know what that is.
Yeah.
The Bob Odenkirk.
and David Cross.
Yeah. Shades of that. So, anything else, Raj?
That's what and Ozarks.
Cool.
Ozark is going to be airing tonight, and I will be continuing that show.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Let's see. I watched Encanto with my daughter. Fell asleep through all that. 137 Shots, documentary on Netflix about the police.
Okay.
And all the shootings that happen and how it affects the community and all that. Highly recommend that. Learn a little bit about Cleveland and the police. Documentary now, and it's older, but Bill Hader and Phil Armisen. Is that Phil?
Fred Armisen?
Fred Armisen, yeah. Fred Armisen, and they do like mockumentaries of like famous documentaries.
Okay.
Highly recommend it. It's, you know, because we're in documentary filmmaking, so watch these guys, you know, make fun of, you know, Nanook of the North and everything. And what's that sushi one? That the one about the sushi chef.
Okay.
They make fun of that one. It's hilarious. What's the guys from HBO that do like the hard hitting documentaries like about drugs and stuff? It's like it starts with Spice or not Spice. I forgot the name, but anyways, documentary now, parody documentaries. The Salesman.
The Sales or just Salesman from the Maisel Brothers.
Yeah,
Maisel Brothers. There have been a number of great episodes from documentary now.
Right.
They also did. I think they did a parody of Great Gardens as well.
They got one about the mafia. About everyone dresses up as Al Capone in like Scandinavia. It's hilarious.
There's a few the documentary now episodes that I think they did Thin Blue Line as well, if I'm not mistaken. So now, are you saying there's another season of that, or they?
No. I just been watching some of the older stuff that they made, and I've been reading listening to a book actually, the Mel Brooks All About Me. So he's just going through all his life in all the movies and how he got into show business and how he you know what he did on every movie and a little behind the scenes on everything and how it came from an idea to executing the idea to after the idea. So like all the movies. So I get to learn a little bit about one of my favorite movies is Spaceballs.
Yeah.
So and then but now I'm watching all the other movies like The Producers and the High Anxiety and
Young Frankenstein.
Young Frankenstein. Thank you very much. And Blazing Saddles, which I also love.
Get Smart.
I had no idea. Oh, and get this, guys. Like he was instrumental. He produced The Elephant Man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
You guys knew that?
Well,
I didn't know that.
Anthony Hopkins called up Mel Brooks after one day of Lynch just, I guess, being too difficult to work with, and he didn't ask supposedly for Lynch to be fired, but he just kind of aired his grievances, and Mel Brooks had to play peacemaker at one point on the set.
Wow. And he found David Lynch, and also he made The Fly. Did you guys know that he was instrumental in making The Fly?
He produced it?
He produced it.
Okay.
Brooks Films.
Okay.
When Jeff Goldblum and he found Gina Davis, and that was all Mel Brooks, and I was like, that blew my mind. And he was married to Mrs. Robinson. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Anne Bancroft.
Yeah, Anne Bancroft. Like this is.
Until she'd passed away.
Oh right, yeah. Rest in peace. But I'm just learning so much about it. Mel Brooks, and I love his son's writings. Max Brooks was one of my favorite authors. You know,
World War Z is one of my favorite books.
Absolutely, hands down, one of my favorite books. And so anything he does is great.
Just like him too. I'm just looking at a picture right now.
Oh yeah, you see, he's actually kind of funny as well. Like whatever. There was this one time when COVID hit, and he was doing a video explaining COVID, and he's like, "Hey, here I am, and here's my dad behind a window. Now, I want to say hi to my dad and everything, but if I were to get close to him, I could potentially infect him and kill him.
Yeah.
And then but before he dies, he might even go talk to other legendary famous people back in his time. So I will have successfully killed an entire generation of famous comedic actors."
Dude, yeah. I didn't know that, but Max Brooks wrote for SNL, too. So one of my favorite shows. I also watch Saturday Night Live religiously. Every week it's on. I can't miss it.
Oh, really?
I try to stay up.
I can't do it anymore.
I love it. It's one of my favorites.
Still?
Still.
Same
I
here.
love it. I love the new people.
I'm with Kevin here. I stopped, but there was one skit I watched recently.
Yeah.
Like a lot of them are terrible to me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's just low-hanging fruit.
But there was one skit where it's like Republican or not, and I actually kind of laughed at that one.
Oh, that was actually that went viral. I did see that one.
Yeah,
it was a game Keen Thompson was hosting, and it was very difficult to decipher if the question or was geared towards someone who would be voting Democrat or Republican.
Yeah,
left, right, culture war, and all that good stuff.
So, I think we're going to be wrapping things up.
Okay. All right.
We want to thank our guest today.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thank
Kevin
you.
Scheid.
That's me. Yeah.
and we hope you come back. You know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
let's hope this is not like the one and done from you.
No.
But please, remember us if you ever
yeah.
become like distributor for these big gigantic movies that and then they take you away and they're like, we want Kevin as our guy, but like always come back.
Don't think you'd worry about that. We want Kevin. So there's a lot of that going on.
And if it's all right, I can to put your email in the description of the episode.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
if people have something they want to run by you, hey, is this a good idea for a movie?
Yeah.
I don't know, like if whatever they want or more info on Gravitas Ventures,
Sure. Yeah.
they can contact you and you take it from there, and
yeah.
that'd be great. All right, any other parting words?
No, this was great. It was another reason to watch the film again and to enjoy it on a deeper level. So that's the thing too. The movie means so much more to me now, or means a lot. It has a bit of a different meaning to me, of course, at 32 than when I first saw it when I was about 17, 18. So in some ways, it's like a litmus test. You can see things differently, or have a deeper appreciation for it, depending on your own life experience or an altered perspective of some sort.
Yeah, through your looking glass mirror. Sure, filter it through it. All right, Raj, are we you ready to close this one out?
I'm sorry, Lito. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Roger, I have to do what I got to do. All right, everybody, have a good one out there. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week with something a little bit more upbeat.
A little bit more upbeat.
A little brighter. Maybe orange.
It's maybe. I think I could. I'll say this. It's one of the few good films Mila Jovovich has ever been in.
Yeah, I think you just gave it away.
Yeah, you gave it away last week. Yeah, we'll figure it out. I mean, they're probably good. A couple of them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Resident Evil. All right. We'll be talking to you later. Have a good one.
All right. Take care. Bye.
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 This conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.